Hey, what's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and today we're going to be talking about PvEvP. And if you're confused, that's okay. The list is going to kind of be a sort of self-describing definition of what that is. Essentially, it's a game that has PvP, but also player versus environment intertwined in that, not separate. So it's not just a PvE game that has PvP or PvP game that has PvE. It is a PvEvP game, and you're going to see as we talk about it through the list. Now, this is a genre that I freaking love, and hopefully you do too. And if you haven't explored it, well, these are the games I think you should explore. Alright, so the first game that I want to talk about is Ark Survival Evolved, and honestly, you could put so many games on this list. I've already spammed Unturned on a ton of lists, and maybe you could even debate Daisy, but probably not, I wouldn't put it on this list. Just, you know, games like that, where there's lots of freaking Zambos or dinosaurs maybe, just some sort of added element, and of course you can mention Minecraft. Though Minecraft I feel is a little bit more vanilla. Ark is a little bit more core, it's a little bit more cutting when it comes to fighting the PvE, as well as at the same time having other players running around you, contesting you, or also befriending you and, you know, making clans or whatever and then waging war. And then, of course, you actually use the PvE, such as taming dinosaurs and stuff like that, for your PvP. And you're going to need to go around, get materials, and hunt around the dinosaurs, escape dinosaurs, run away from them, hunt them down. And you're going to have to fight these other players all at the same time, interweaving perfectly PvEvP. And I think it's a really great descriptor game for this list that's going to get you set in the right mindsets here. So Ark Survival Evolved definitely has some mixed reviews. I just kind of want to mention that. It's not a game for everyone. Optimization. Then again, this entire genre is basically filled with mixed reviews. It's basically filled with games that are like this, but not as big or not as entwined with either the PvE or the PvP. I just feel like Ark Survival Evolved is the one that really merges the two. I remember this Battle Royale actually was a pretty interesting concept too. I don't know how that works in the base game now, and there's a whole lot that's weird with mods and the DLC that I still need to explore, but just at its core values, Ark Survival Evolved isn't as bad, I think, as people want to say it is. It kind of I think it does deserve its popularity, but it's also a really unique game. Not for everybody, but for people who like PvEvP, yeah, I think you should give it a shot. All right, next up on the list, we have an MMO proper. So a lot of you guys looking at this list might be looking for MMOs, and I think that the MMO that does PvEvP best at the moment is Albion Online. Now, no game exists in a vacuum. I always do comparisons and contractions whenever I talk about games, thus list videos. But Albion Online, I think, as an MMO, even though it was so, like, poster boyed for, like, the new upcoming wave of PvP games, actually has some really decent PvE, and in fact, that's where I spend most of my time, is focusing on the PvE as a solo hunter-gatherer type of person, and then also getting ganked or ganking other people as I go and pursue that goal. So something that gets overlooked, and that's why I really wanted to mention this game. Plus, we do have other games like BDO, and we have some other titles, maybe like World of Warcraft, which, you know, it kind of mixes PvE and PvP, sort of, but nobody really does that anymore. And in BDO, same thing. It's like, yeah, it's a sandbox game, and you can be PvP'd, but mostly people just kind of, yeah, they do the guild fights, and then, you know, then they just grind. Everyone just grinds. But Albion Online, it's way more intertwined, just like I said with Ark Survival Evolved. There's definitely a balance here, and that's what I really want to promote with PvEvP games, is that these type of titles need that balance. It needs environment and player versus player perfectly intertwined. So Albion, I think, actually does a good job when it comes to that. I wish it did focus more on big world bosses. I wish there was more of those out there. I wish there was more stuff going on with the player versus player incentive to just solo gank. So it's kind of Zergy, it's kind of more guild focused. But regardless, I think somebody can have a lot of fun if you just jump in and you want to just solo, you know, some dungeons and stuff like that, and gank and be ganked. Sure, cat and mouse, it can be a lot of fun, and I think this is the shining example of that type of gameplay. Even if it's not a perfect MMO as a whole for PvP players or PvE players, yeah, for those particular players like myself, then maybe you can have a good time. Also, fun fact, they actually do have PvEvP dungeons, which is entirely unique from anything I've played, called Hellgates. You should really look into those, see those videos, and if that looks fun, then yeah, you're gonna jam. Alright, halfway through the list, I'm gonna slap down Hi-Rez's Smite. I think that this is a MOBA that deserves a second wind, especially after the failing of Paragon. So this is an action MOBA, and in like sort of a top-down sort of way, I guess if you just look at it on paper, it looks very similar to a standard MOBA with your 3 lanes, similar jungle monster design, you know, the creep design, a lot of that stuff. The big difference though is that Smite's end goal actually is a player versus environment interaction. It is a freaking Titan that you have to slay. So that gives it a little bit of an extra boost. I think a big boon for PvEvP games. But yeah, it's very similar to lots of MOBAs, and generally MOBAs are, well, they're PvEvP games. That's their defining feature. If you don't have PvE in your MOBA, then you're just a battle arena. You're not quite that Dota-like experience. It's not like League of Legends. It is a totally different experience, and we call those games brawlers. But Smite is an action MOBA that does intertwine just, general MOBA elements. You got your, jungle buffs, you got your gold, fury or dragon or whatever, and then you have your big monster like your Baron, but it's a fire giant thing, dude. Anyways, so I really wanted to put Smite on here because it also has lots of fun game modes. It's got lots of different ways to play with the PvEvP, especially the arena mode. I think is just glorious, and all the little gimmicks, the weekly or daily, gimmicky stuff that they throw on, like all Bacchus, no cooldowns. Stupid stuff like that. It just makes it really fun. But Smite is on the list as well because it also contends with the next item on our list. But in terms of a standard MOBA design, 3-lane and all that good blah, blah, blah. I think that Smite is the one, mainly because, yeah, you actually do, in the end, have to smite a PvE objective. You have to actually kill a monster that will fight back. Rest in peace, Gigantic. But here, we have Smite, and hopefully you enjoy it. Yeah, but next up, we got Heroes of the Storm. Now, honestly, this list could have been filled with MOBAs, but I wasn't about to do that. I felt like Smite, took up the archetype of standard MOBA, even though it is an action MOBA. But Heroes of the Storm, even though it's top-down, is not a standard MOBA. It is, in fact, like the most radically different, and it goes so high on this list because it actually perfectly focuses on the concept of really what I think makes MOBAs MOBA, which is the PvEvP elements. So you got your towers, you got your bases, you got all sorts of different, structures that you can destroy. You have your mercenaries inside of the jungle. Lots of heroes interact with those in very strange ways, very weird ways, and the maps themselves actually change. So your PvE elements is completely radically different sometimes every single game because the maps, the gimmicks of Heroes of the Storm is that there's lots of maps, there's lots of gimmicks. They're all very different. So, I mean, you could play characters that are controlled by 2 players. That's weird. And you have a character called Abathur. He's a specialist, and you can just sit in the base all day. Very strange hero designs overall in Heroes of the Storm. And then the talent system is very weird. A lot of just really weird and kind of very strange things are thrown into this game. But I love that they kind of know how different they can be, and they just went all the way with it. They're basically, that's the idea of Heroes of the Storm at this moment, is that it has this concept of, yeah, it's a MOBA. Man, that is tried and true, right? But they've executed it, I think, well enough, even though it's maybe not as mechanically explosive, but in terms of what makes a MOBA and the core ideas, they just went full throttle with that idea. I mean, there's some maps where you're going to be fighting bosses in the middle of it. There's some maps where you got to do this weird mini-game thing, collect coins, and then shoot cannons off in the distance. There's a lot of really cool PvEvP elements with, like, freaking raid bosses, like, in the middle of a map or something like that, and then they run down the lanes. Super interesting. Sometimes you can even control them. I think that in terms of PvEvP, there is no better MOBA that exemplifies it because Heroes of the Storm literally just focuses on that gimmick, and every single map actually changes and is different. It's beautiful, it's glorious. As a PvEvP player, this is the MOBA to play. And finally, I'm gonna have to put this at number 1. I feel like that with history, it just has so much potential and power. I mean, even still with the modding scene, but that's gonna be Left 4 Dead. This is a game that I really wish inspired more games, and it has actually with the Vermintide series, as well as some stuff with Overwatch and a couple of like mini games and a lot of these other titles. But Left 4 Dead was really unique because it's an asymmetrical multiplayer title. Now, Turtle Rock, the developers of Left 4 Dead, actually went on to make Evolve, which is a really cool game, had some PvE elements, but it was really hard to say it's a PvEvP game. It was just another asymmetrical game. Same thing with Titanfall, which has some PvE elements, but it's not, I mean, it technically is PvEvP, but it's not enough to make it on the list, right? But Left 4 Dead really had that balance. Again, another thing that I want to keep stressing is that you need to balance PvE with versus players and then have that all intertwined together, and Left 4 Dead did that. So whenever you play Left 4 Dead, it is asymmetrical multiplayer, so you have your humans, they run around, get weapons, try to make it to the end. It's a campaign sort of system thing. They're also fighting lots of freaking zombies, and there's also special zombies, right? With the boomers and the spitters and stuff. Crazy, man. It's a lot of fun, but the really cool thing is that the PvP focus of that is that some players can play as the zombies. So it's 4v4, but you choose actually different special zombies to spawn in as. So while the players are interacting with the AI and trying to clear out through hordes of zombies or run through them and sneakity sneak, well, then you also have people spitting out and lunging out and also directly interacting with the players. So it's this really crazy, one asymmetrical multiplayer. That's insane. That's chaos. The hordes of zombies. Whoa. The campaign style maps. And then you have the players all interacting with that and trying to incite more chaos or clear the way through. But yeah, this was the defining PvEvP game for the longest time, and I think a lot of games do kind of want that concept in their games, or they definitely steal some ideas, but they haven't perfectly replicated the full experience yet, and I just really want that again. But until then, Left 4 Dead 2 is still a freaking good game, guys. It's always on sale. There's no excuse that you haven't played this game. It's kind of freaking historic, so yeah. Jump in, regardless. If you're a PvE player, PvP player, I don't know, but, you know, PvEvP players, absolutely, this is part of our heritage, and you need to play it. So that's it for the list. I know, just top 5s, but I like actually using this formula because I can talk a little bit more, go a little bit deeper. I can just kind of bluntly describe the game just a little bit, but then also do more of a review, which is, I think, the point of list videos. They are reviews, but often most people just kind of just like read off the Wikipedia or whatever, hey, this is what this game is. I want to go a little bit deeper, so top 5s do that, especially for more niche type of stuffs like this, PvEvP. So hopefully you understand what that exactly means. I said it like 20 million times throughout the video. This should be a pretty good example, and if there's any games that kind of have PvE elements in their player versus player, let me know about it in the comments below, because whether it's a proper PvEvP or not, I still just love those weird games. I love asymmetrical games too as well, and I've done a couple of lists like that, so look in the description or in the comments. I'll definitely slap out some top 10s I think you might have fun with. So I want to do more weird stuff that more people don't talk about, and if you guys want to support that, Patreon, you know, donate, all that good stuff. I don't know what to say. Like, subscribe, oh, YouTube stuff. Gotta do the call to actions, because I think we're at the point of where we're about to accelerate the channel to insane heights, and hopefully you guys come along with us. If you want to find new games, have new experiences, that's what I want to do on this channel, and that's not even limited to gaming. So if you want to support that, if you want to go along for the ride, well, subscribe and keep the hype alive. My name's Skylent, and I'll see you again next time.